Hello, everybody. I'm Trevor Andershock. I'm starting a new series looking at Indiana natives performing at the collegiate level all throughout D1 basketball, D2, D3, NAIA, junior college, along with specific teams, performing well at all those levels as well. This week, I'm starting off with Brooks Barnhizer, the Lafayette Jeff graduate and Indiana All-Star in 2021, had 16 points, 5 assists, 4 rebounds, and 3 steals against Indiana on Wednesday. And that was just in the second half. Overall, he had 21 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists, and 6 steals. Outside of his free throw shooting, where he was only 4 of 9 on the night, Barnhizer had an incredible performance. He was really part of the reason why Northwestern came from behind. They were trailing 52-49 with 9:25 to play in the second half, and Barnhizer scored 12 points and assisted on 2 other buckets during the final 9 minutes, really leading the Wildcats' charge to beat IU in a crucial game for both teams. Let's go ahead and look at a couple plays here. First off, he catches it on the wing and scores while the Wildcats were trailing 52-49. Just trying to get into the paint here. The IU defense wasn't very strong. Luke Goody doesn't body him up very well when he gets switched on to him, and he scores in the paint there. Barnhizer really does a great job of using his body. Not the quickest guy, but is strong and a solid 6'5", 6'6", listed at 6'6". I think probably close to barefoot, about 6'4" and a half, 6'5", but plenty strong enough and plenty of height to score at the Big Ten level in the paint using his body. And we saw that a few times against Indiana. Let's take a look here. Just using up his whole body. Again, gets into Luke Goody, kicks out to Ty Berry for a 3 here. Ty Berry was a killer. Or that's Jalen Leach, I'm sorry. Jalen Leach gets a look here because Barnhizer draws so much attention. And he has developed into that playmaker for Northwestern. Let's take a look at another play here. He finds Martinelli, takes a shot, but then it's on the kick out. Barnhizer spotting up. Nobody gets out to Barnhizer, and he drills a 3. Not known as a shooter, but very, very good, or not good, but a capable shooter to kind of put pressure on the defense and make sure that he's guarded at all times. Here's another key one. Late shot clock. Barnhizer fading away over Galloway. This is where IU really needed to stop, and Barnhizer makes an incredible shot. Really sealed the game for Northwestern here. He had some free throws, and then he gets this run-out dunk where, unfortunately, he lands on his face, gets pretty bloody nose here. But always tough. Comes out for the final 16 seconds, but Northwestern had that wrapped up. Just overall having a great season for Northwestern. And looking back on his journey, he started his high school career in Alabama, playing for his dad, Mark Barnhizer. Mark, in his own right, was a high-scoring high school player at LaPel. I think 1,800 points. Went to Purdue and then Auburn, and that was one of the connections that led him to coaching in Alabama after a long coaching career in Indiana at Perry Meridian, a whole bunch of other stops. But found himself down in Alabama, which allowed Brooks to play 6 years of high school basketball, I should say. Sorry, played 6 years of high school basketball. Starting as a 7th grader, you're eligible to play varsity basketball in Alabama, and he did that. I believe he scored 1,000 points even before coming to Indiana as a sophomore. in those 3 years on varsity. So always a scorer. My first time seeing Brooks Barnhizer in person was February of 2019. His Lafayette Jeff team came to Indianapolis to play Indianapolis Tech. Not a super strong Tech team, but Barnhizer was fantastic. And I got a couple of clips here, and you'll see a lot of the same stuff that you see from him today in the video. Just using his body, using his quickness. The same type of player, using his body. Not the most explosive guy, but was able to find the spots, push the ball, be a good ball handler. Let's see a little bit more here. Finding his brother for a long three. But in this game, he had 22 points, 11 rebounds, 6 assists, 3 blocks, 2 steals. Pretty similar stat line to what he is doing this year for Northwestern. There's a good shot there. But, yeah, just overall, he ended up developing to one heck of a high school player. Ended up putting up incredible, gaudy numbers as a senior. Nearly 33 points a game, 11.5 rebounds, 6.5 assists, 3.8 steals, 2.6 blocks. It was really a one-man show there his senior year. Ended up, I believe, being a Mr. Basketball finalist and made the Indiana All-Star team, as I said earlier. In my player rankings for the 21 class, a very loaded, deep 2021 class in Indiana, I had Brooks Barnhizer 4th, behind Caleb First, who ended up winning Mr. Basketball, now at Purdue, obviously. Trey Kaufman-Wren, who was at Silver Creek at the time, now obviously starring for Purdue. And Blake Wesley, South Bend Riley graduate, now in the NBA. It felt like by the time the summer going into their senior year, Wesley had kind of proven that he had the clear highest ceiling, but there was a lot of unknown if he would develop into, that type of player. And obviously he did. His athleticism really took him to the next level. He developed the skill set behind him to allow him to have a very fantastic freshman year at Notre Dame before going on to the NBA. But Barnhizer was right in that mix, a high major prospect who ended up playing AAU with Kwamari Peterson from Gary Westside, who is now having a fantastic year for East Tennessee State. Jake Heidbreder, who's at Clemson, and then Langdon Hatton also. He's now at IU. That was a fantastic group coached by Fonzo White and now the late Frank Kendrick. Really had a lot of success on a second-tier Indiana Elite team. That was a fun group to watch. His recruitment, started off pretty low to mid-major type of schools. Auburn, with his dad's connection, took a look at him there. Towards the end of his recruitment, it looked like Butler was going to win that one out, but obviously that never happened, and Northwestern picked him up, and it's been an interesting journey and progress for Brooks Barnhizer. Look at his stats here as a freshman, in and out of the lineup, hurt a little bit. Only played major minutes in 2 games, a blowout loss to Iowa, and then a blowout loss to Iowa again. Those were the majority of his minutes came in those 2 games, only averaged 1.4 points per game as a freshman. It didn't look like anything major was going to happen with his career at that point. Only played 11 games, didn't score very much. But then he made a nice leap as a sophomore. Played all 34 games off the bench, scored 7.7 points, 4.9 rebounds, 1.1 assists. Only had a couple big games, but really started showing it, in Big Ten season that he was a solidified Big Ten player. Had, the ability to score around the rim using his strength and his size. Shot was a little inconsistent, but it showed that a solid foundation to his game. That you could see him being a really good player his final 2 years, and that's what has happened. Last year, he was just fantastic. Finally moved into a starting role for Northwestern. The ball was in his hands a lot more than his first 2 years. Ended up scoring 14.6 points per game, 7.5 rebounds, 2.6 assists, 1.8 steals. And he was almost playing 37 minutes a game for Chris Collins in Northwestern at that point. A bunch of 40-minute games, and then a few in overtime where he went over 40 minutes. That just shows how valuable he became to Northwestern last year as a junior. Ended up being third team All Big Ten, made the All Defensive team in the Big Ten as well. I don't know how many people would have predicted that coming out of high school, but just strong, knows how to anticipate the action. We saw that against Indiana where he had the 6 steals. He knows how to get ahead of the action. He's not reactionary on the defensive end. He's trying to figure out what the offense is doing and beat them to the spot, and he does a great job of that. This season, obviously, really carrying Northwestern. He was hurt early in the year, and they were, struggling a little bit. Ended up losing to a solid Dayton team. They might be able to beat them now with Brooks Barnhizer back in the lineup, but he missed those first 4 games of the season and then hit the ground running, basically in the 20-point range throughout the season for Northwestern. Him and Nick Martinelli are really carrying this Northwestern team to give them a chance of going back to the NCAA tournament. Just a fantastic year for him. 18.5 points per game, 9.2 rebounds, 4.3 assists, 2.5 steals. The turnovers are up a little bit this year, 2.9. That does kind of hurt his analytical rating. But still, he ranks very highly in the nation, 42nd in box plus and minus, and even a little bit higher in win shares, even though his win shares have gone down from last year because of those turnovers. The win share formula really penalizes you for turning the ball over. But you see there, his BPM is off the charts this season. Just fantastic progression from Brooks Barnhizer. That's the biggest thing I can say about him. One, tough. You saw that where he lands on his face and immediately says he's fine at the end of the IU game. That toughness, his skill level is fantastic. Obviously, you would like him to be a little bit better of a shooter to really solidify himself as one of the best players in the Big Ten, for the Player of the Year race. You would like him to be closer to 35-40% from 3. This year, only shooting 27.6% from deep. But everything else is fantastic from Barnhizer. And it's been really fun to watch his progression and his journey from, moving back to Indiana, solidifying himself as a D1 guy, beginning to get the high major offers, commits to Northwestern, shaky little start as a freshman, builds on as a sophomore, very good as a junior, and now great as a senior. Just overall, really, really fun to watch Brooks Barnhizer throughout his career, and thought it was something to really highlight his progression and his journey from from Alabama to Lafayette, and now in Evanston, really carrying the Northwestern Wildcats and giving them hope of making the NCAA tournament this year. Let's see what their chances are to get to the NCAA tournament right now. Check BartTorvik.com, about 23% for their chances. So they've got an outside chance, really need to lean on Brooks Barnhizer down the stretch of the season. Obviously, a all Big Ten first, team is definitely in the realm of possibility for Brooks Barnhizer. You would think he would improve on his third team award from last year with the way he's performing this year. So first or second team All Big Ten is very reasonable for him. Probably just outside the Player of the Year race unless Northwestern really dominates down the stretch. But yeah, that will do it for our first episode looking into Indiana natives excelling at the next level. I'm Trevor Andershock, and I'll talk to you soon.